Camila, a brilliant lawyer in her late 20s, stood trembling in the courtroom, holding back tears as the judge's words cut through her like a blade. In that moment, she doubted everything, but her story was far from over. Camila, a talented young lawyer in her late 20s with chestnut brown hair tied back in a sleek bun, stood confidently in the courtroom. She wore a neatly pressed navy suit, the symbol of her hard-earned place in the legal world. But the sharp words of the presiding judge shattered her composure. "Your arguments are as weak as your credentials," the judge sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. The courtroom fell silent, the weight of his prejudice filling the room. Camila froze, her mind racing with disbelief and humiliation. In that moment, the years of sacrifice and study seemed to vanish under the crushing weight of his disdain. Camila sat alone in her modest apartment, staring blankly at her case files. Her hands trembled as she recalled the judge's words, each one etched into her mind like a wound. "As weak as your credentials," the memory brought a lump to her throat, and tears finally spilled down her cheeks. The humiliation wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. She had worked tirelessly to rise above the limitations of her humble background, sacrificing nights, relationships, and even her health to earn her law degree. Yet, one moment of prejudice had threatened to undo it all, leaving her feeling small and powerless. She avoided her colleagues, ashamed that they might see her as the judge had, inexperienced and unworthy. Even simple tasks, like reviewing evidence, became insurmountable as self-doubt crept into every corner of her mind. She felt paralyzed, unable to face the profession she had once loved. At night, Camila struggled to sleep. Her mind replayed the courtroom scene over and over, amplifying her insecurities. She wondered if she should quit, if the legal world had no place for someone like her. The thought of abandoning her dream was devastating, but so was the idea of enduring more humiliation. Amid her despair, Camila whispered a quiet prayer for guidance. "Please," she said, her voice breaking, "help me find the strength to keep going." Though the path ahead seemed impossible, a faint glimmer of hope flickered within her. Perhaps this wasn't the end of her story. Desperate for guidance, Camila reached out to her mentor, Evelyn, a seasoned attorney with a reputation for resilience and grace under pressure. Evelyn welcomed her into a cozy office lined with books and certificates, the warmth of the space contrasting with the chill in Camila's heart. "Tell me everything," Evelyn said, her voice steady yet compassionate. As Camila recounted the incident in the courtroom, her voice quivered with frustration and pain. Evelyn listened without interrupting, her eyes sharp with understanding. When Camila finished, she lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper. "Maybe I'm not cut out for this," she admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. Evelyn leaned forward, placing a firm hand on Camila's. "I've been where you are," she said. "I know what it's like to feel silenced and judged for who you are, not what you can do. But don't let their prejudice define your worth." Her words carried the weight of experience, resonating deeply with Camila. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn became Camila's lifeline. She shared her own stories of adversity and how she had turned humiliation into motivation. "Your pain can be your power," Evelyn told her during one of their many late-night conversations. "You've already proven you're strong by making it this far." Evelyn's unwavering belief in her ignited something in Camila, a determination to fight back, not out of anger, but out of a need for justice. The more they talked, the more Camila began to see her experience not as an ending, but as an opportunity to create change, starting with herself. Camila sat at her desk late into the night, Evelyn's words echoing in her mind. "Your pain can be your power." For the first time since the courtroom incident, she felt a spark of purpose. With a deep breath, she opened her laptop and began researching the judge who had humiliated her. What she found shocked her. Case after case revealed patterns of similar behavior, disrespectful comments, dismissive attitudes, and blatant prejudice against lawyers from diverse or modest backgrounds. Her outrage grew as she realized she wasn't the first, nor would she be the last, to endure such treatment. "This has to stop," she murmured to herself. She began organizing her findings, carefully documenting each instance of misconduct. Every story she uncovered fueled her determination, transforming her sadness into resolve. It wasn't just about restoring her confidence. It was about ensuring no one else would have to experience what she had. The next step was daunting, reaching out to others who had suffered under the same judge. Camila hesitated, fearing rejection or indifference. But as she began contacting lawyers and gathering their testimonies, she was met with gratitude and support. Many shared her desire for accountability, offering to stand with her in the fight for justice. Camila's apartment, once filled with despair, now buzzed with purpose. Stacks of files and notes surrounded her as she worked tirelessly to build her case. The seeds of her determination had grown into something far greater, a mission to expose injustice and restore integrity to the courtroom. Camila's journey to build a case against the judge was both daunting and exhilarating. She spent countless hours reviewing court transcripts, gathering testimonies, and compiling evidence. The deeper she dug, the clearer it became. This judge had used his authority to demean and belittle countless lawyers, eroding the very principles of justice he was meant to uphold. Her tiny apartment became a command center, with files stacked high and timelines pinned to the walls. She reached out to colleagues and even former courtroom clerks who had witnessed his behavior. Many were hesitant to speak at first, fearing backlash, but Camila's unwavering resolve convinced them that standing up was worth the risk. Each testimony she collected was more powerful than the last. One lawyer described being silenced mid-argument, while another recounted being mocked in front of a jury. As the stories piled up, so did Camila's determination. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was a fight for everyone who had been dismissed or degraded by someone in power. The most challenging part was preparing her case for the Judicial Ethics Committee. Camila pored over every detail, knowing she had to present an airtight argument. Evelyn, ever the mentor, reviewed her findings and offered strategic advice. "You're not just fighting for yourself," Evelyn reminded her. "You're fighting for the integrity of the entire system." As the date for her formal complaint drew closer, Camila felt the weight of her mission. But she also felt something else: pride. She was no longer the lawyer crushed by humiliation in a courtroom. She was a warrior, armed with evidence, determination, and a belief that justice could prevail even in the darkest of times. As Camila's case gained momentum, the backlash began. Anonymous emails flooded her inbox, warning her to drop the complaint. Some colleagues whispered behind her back, calling her reckless for challenging a powerful judge. Even friends cautioned her, saying, "You're putting your career on the line." The pressure was immense, but Camila refused to waver. She knew the stakes were high, not just for her but for the countless others who had been silenced. Still, the doubt crept in during quiet moments. What if they're right? She thought late at night, staring at the stacks of evidence on her desk. Her mentor, Evelyn, remained her rock. "Backlash is the price of progress," she reminded Camila. "If you're making people uncomfortable, it means you're challenging something that needs to change." Those words became a mantra, strengthening Camila's resolve to move forward despite the growing resistance. The judge's defenders launched a smear campaign, painting Camila as an inexperienced lawyer seeking revenge. Articles surfaced questioning her credibility, and old professional mistakes were dredged up to discredit her. Camila, though shaken, leaned on her integrity. "The truth will speak louder than their lies," she told herself. With every obstacle, Camila became more determined. Each attempt to silence her only reaffirmed the importance of her fight. Her confidence, once shattered, began to rebuild, not from validation, but from the knowledge that she was standing on the side of justice, no matter how lonely that path felt. The day of the initial hearing arrived, and the air buzzed with tension. Camila, dressed in a sharp black suit, entered the packed courtroom with her head held high. She clutched her meticulously prepared files, each page a testament to her months of relentless effort. Her heart raced, but her resolve was unshakable. Across the room, the judge sat with an air of indifference, flanked by his legal team. His casual demeanor contrasted sharply with the gravity of the situation. Camila couldn't help but feel the weight of his gaze, but she forced herself to focus. This wasn't about intimidation, it was about truth. As the hearing began, Camila presented her case with clarity and precision. She detailed instances of prejudice and misconduct, supported by witness testimonies and court transcripts. The committee members listened intently, their expressions a mix of shock and disapproval as her evidence painted a damning picture. The judge's defense team attempted to undermine her credibility, calling her accusations exaggerated and self-serving. Camila remained composed, countering each argument with facts and logic. Evelyn's advice echoed in her mind: stick to the truth. It's your greatest weapon. Her poise under pressure impressed even her skeptics. By the end of the session, the room was charged with anticipation. The committee announced that the hearing would continue, citing the seriousness of the allegations. As Camila left the courtroom, she felt a mix of exhaustion and hope. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, she saw a path forward. As news of the hearing spread, Camila's case began attracting widespread public attention. Articles emerged detailing the judge's history of misconduct, and her courageous stand became the focus of headlines. Lawyer challenges judicial power and exposing prejudice in the courtroom were among the stories shared across media platforms. Social media lit up with support and debate. Messages poured in from strangers who had faced similar injustices, thanking Camila for speaking out. Yet, criticism also surfaced. Some accused her of seeking fame or attacking the judicial system. Camila avoided the noise, focusing on the voices of encouragement and the mission she had set out to achieve. The pressure mounted as journalists camped outside her apartment and reporters approached her for interviews. At first, Camila hesitated, wary of being misrepresented. But Evelyn urged her to share her story on her terms. "You're not just fighting for yourself anymore," Evelyn said. "Your voice can inspire others to stand up." Camila decided to participate in a televised interview. Sitting under the bright studio lights, she spoke with measured honesty about her experience, the systemic issues she had uncovered, and her hope for a fairer judicial system. Her calm yet passionate delivery resonated with viewers, turning her into a symbol of resilience and justice. With the public now watching closely, Camila felt both pressure and empowerment. The spotlight brought new challenges, but it also amplified her cause. What had begun as a personal fight was now a collective movement, and Camila knew she had to see it through, not just for herself, but for everyone her case had come to represent. Weeks into the proceedings, Camila uncovered a crucial piece of evidence that could change everything. Buried in years of court records was a case where the judge's discriminatory behavior had been documented but dismissed as a misunderstanding. The report included complaints from multiple lawyers, making it impossible to ignore. Armed with this new information, Camila submitted it to the ethics committee. The evidence painted a clear pattern of misconduct, not as isolated incidents but as part of a systemic abuse of power. The committee members, who had remained neutral until now, began asking pointed questions during hearings, signaling a shift in momentum. A breakthrough came when a former courtroom clerk, previously hesitant to testify, stepped forward. "I saw it happen," the clerk said, voice steady but emotional. Their testimony corroborated Camila's claims and exposed the judge's repeated use of intimidation tactics. The courtroom fell silent, the gravity of the revelation hanging in the air. Public opinion swung further in Camila's favor. Media outlets reported the developments with headlines like, "Judge faces mounting evidence of bias," and "Testimony shakes the courtroom." Support for judicial reform gained traction, with activists and legal professionals rallying behind Camila's efforts. The judge's legal team grew defensive, scrambling to counter the mounting accusations. But their efforts couldn't erase the weight of the evidence. For the first time, Camila felt the scales tipping, not just in her case, but in the broader fight for justice. This was no longer just her story. It was a turning point for systemic accountability. With the case behind her, Camila found herself standing on steadier ground. The courtroom, once a place of humiliation and doubt, now felt like a space where she had reclaimed her power. Her reputation, once tarnished, began to shine brighter than ever as colleagues and clients recognized her strength and integrity. Camila's schedule filled with new cases, many from clients who sought her out specifically because of her unwavering dedication to justice. Each case she took on was an opportunity to prove not just her legal skill but her resilience and compassion. Slowly, the shadows of her past humiliation began to fade, replaced by pride in her work. The support she had once feared she'd lost returned in full force. Lawyers who had doubted her now sought her guidance. Invitations to speak at legal conferences poured in, and Camila found herself standing before young professionals, sharing her story. "Failure doesn't define you," she told them. "It prepares you for something greater." Her victory extended beyond her career. The judge's removal prompted reforms within the judicial system, including stricter oversight and mandatory training on ethics and discrimination. These changes reminded Camila that her struggle had not been in vain. It had sparked meaningful progress for the profession she loved. Though her journey had been grueling, Camila felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced her darkest fears and emerged stronger, not just for herself but for others. The humiliation that once seemed insurmountable had become the foundation for her redemption, proving that even the most painful moments can lead to transformation. Camila's victory resonated far beyond her personal journey, prompting a wave of systemic change within the judiciary. The Ethics Committee, spurred by the public and professional outcry, introduced new guidelines aimed at preventing abuse of authority and promoting fairness in courtrooms. For the first time, accountability for judges became a focal point of reform. One of the most significant changes was the creation of a whistleblower program, allowing lawyers and courtroom staff to report misconduct without fear of retaliation. Camila was invited to participate in its development, her first-hand experience shaping policies to ensure voices like hers would never be silenced again. Mandatory workshops on ethics and anti-discrimination were implemented for all judicial personnel. Camila was a guest speaker at many of these sessions, sharing her story to emphasize the importance of integrity and respect in the legal system. Her presence served as a reminder that even those in power must answer to justice. The reforms extended to law schools, where future lawyers were now being trained to recognize and challenge biases within the system. Camila became a sought-after lecturer, inspiring students to approach their careers with courage and compassion. "Your responsibility is not just to win cases," she often told them. "It's to uphold the ideals of justice itself." Through these reforms, Camila saw the impact of her fight ripple outward, touching lives she might never meet. Her story had become more than a personal victory. It was a catalyst for lasting change. And while the path had been arduous, the results reaffirmed her belief that even the smallest act of courage could lead to profound transformation. Camila stood before a packed lecture hall, her gaze sweeping over the eager faces of young law students. Many of them came from humble beginnings, just like her, and their questions reflected both their ambitions and fears. Camila shared her journey with candor, recounting not just her triumphs but the moments of doubt and pain that had shaped her. Her story became a source of motivation for students struggling to find their place in a competitive and often unforgiving field. "Don't let anyone make you feel small," she told them, her voice steady with conviction. "Your value isn't determined by where you come from but by the integrity you bring to your work." Camila also began mentoring young lawyers, particularly those who felt marginalized within the profession. She hosted workshops, offering practical advice and emotional support to help them navigate challenges. Her mentorship extended beyond legal skills. She encouraged them to confront bias and stand up for fairness in their practice. Through these efforts, Camila created a network of professionals who carried her message forward. They shared their own experiences of resilience and used their platforms to advocate for justice. Each success story reminded Camila of the ripple effect her fight had created, empowering a new generation to challenge injustice. At the end of every lecture or workshop, Camila would leave her students with one final thought: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. Be courageous, and you'll find the strength to make a difference. Her words lingered long after, inspiring others to embrace their power and purpose. One quiet evening, Camila sat by the window of her office, looking out at the city skyline illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights. Her hands rested on an open journal, its pages filled with thoughts and reflections from her years of struggle and triumph. The silence offered her a rare moment to reflect on how far she had come. She thought back to the humiliation she had endured in that courtroom, the crushing weight of self-doubt, and the nights when giving up seemed like the only option. Those memories, once painful, now felt like distant echoes, reminders of the strength she had found within herself. What once broke her had ultimately built her. Her gaze fell on a framed photo on her desk, a gift from her mentor, Evelyn. It showed Camila standing outside the courthouse on the day of the judge's removal, surrounded by supporters. Beneath it, Evelyn had written, "You didn't just fight for yourself. You fought for all of us." The words filled Camila with gratitude and pride. Camila realized that her journey was never just about her career. It was about creating change, breaking barriers, and proving that justice was possible even in the face of prejudice. Though the fight had tested her in ways she never imagined, it had also given her purpose and a legacy to be proud of. As she closed her journal, Camila whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. Her journey had been far from easy, but it had shown her the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for what was right. She smiled, knowing that the best way to honor her story was to keep inspiring others to write their own. Camila's journey had transformed her from a humiliated lawyer questioning her worth into a trailblazer for justice and integrity. Sitting in a courtroom once filled with doubt, she now felt a profound sense of peace. Her struggles had reshaped not only her life but the system she had fought to improve. As she looked back, she realized her story wasn't just about one case or one victory. It was about resilience, the ability to rise above fear and humiliation to create something meaningful. Camila knew her battle had opened doors for others, proving that even the most daunting challenges could lead to profound change. To everyone who has faced doubt or injustice, Camila's message is clear. Your voice matters. Stand tall even when it feels like the world is against you. Justice isn't always easy, but it's worth the fight. Her legacy lives on in the lives she touched and the reforms she inspired, reminding us all that courage and perseverance can change the world. If Camila's journey moved you, share this story and subscribe for more tales of resilience and hope.